How's it going, everybody? So, of course, the NFL schedule release has officially come out. The Lions 2025 schedule has officially been released, which means now it's time to do the yearly tradition of doing schedule predictions for the schedule ready. Way too early. Because, for all schedule predictions, still, you gotta take it with a grain of salt because, these predictions honestly don't really mean jack shit until we see the actual product on the field. Because we haven't had OTAs yet, or we're starting OTAs. We've had rookie mini camp, and we got the player mini camp. We haven't even got the training camp yet, or preseason. And of course, this year the Lions do have 4 preseason games because the Lions are playing the Chargers in that Hall of Fame game at Canton, Ohio to kick off preseason. So the Lions will have plenty of time for plenty of preseason time to get all the kinks worked out heading into the regular season, and for player evaluation too. By the way, let's go over this 2025 schedule. I'll tell you right now, the Lions schedule, especially the start of the year for the road games, it's fucking brutal. Just absolutely brutal road schedule to open the year. The Lions easily have a tough schedule this year, Then again, everyone in the North has a tough schedule, so it's not going to be like last year when the Lions had a pretty easy schedule the last couple of years. This time they actually have a hard schedule. So let's go over the schedule and see how the Lions fare this year. So start off week 1, we have a road game in Green Bay for the Packers home opener. Let's be honest, even though it's in Green Bay, it's effectively a Lions home game in name. Because the stadium will get overrun by Lions fans for the 3rd year in a row like it has the last 2 years. So, for this game in Green Bay, Detroit has won the last 3 games in Green Bay. I think Detroit extends their winning streak at Lambeau to 4 straight years. Also, it's good that this is early in the year and not later in the year where it's wet and cold and rainy and shit. So, we got good weather conditions in Green Bay, so I'm going to say winning that one. So, I got Detroit winning on the road in Green Bay to open the season. That's also a 4:25 game on CBS. So I got Detroit winning to go 1-0 to open the season. Week 2, the Lions home opener, and it's a big one. At home against the Chicago Bears. Ben Johnson's first game back in Detroit since he stabbed the Lions in the back to go be the head coach of a division rival. Like the snake that he is. And it's going to be a very hostile environment. Not only because it's the home opener, but because of Ben Johnson leaving to go coach a division rival. If Ben Johnson went and coached any other team in the league that wasn't in the North, one of us wouldn't have been as venomous about it as a lot of you say we've been. We wouldn't really care too much. You'd be like, okay, bye. But it's he literally went and jumped on a division rival bandwagon. But at home against Chicago, this is a must-win game, because, to try to shut down some narratives, saying, it was Ben Johnson that was the reason for the Lions' offensive success the last couple years. Even though they've had multiple people voice opinions and design the offense. It's multiple players that have a say in how the offense goes, from Dan Campbell to Jared Goff to Jahmyr Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra, Laporta, and the list goes on. Nearly anybody worth a damn on the offense has a say in how the offense is run. But I think it's good that we got it early in the year because the Bears will still be working out some kinks between Ben and Caleb on the offense. So good idea to get that game early in the year. So I think at home against Chicago, I got that as a win against the Bears, and I have Detroit start 2-0 to open the season. Also crazy how we have back-to-back divisional games to open the season. Week 3 in Baltimore on Monday Night Football. I have that game against Baltimore as a L. I think that will be the Lions' first loss of the season. Let's be honest, it's Baltimore. The Lions have always struggled against the Ravens in Baltimore. They have never beaten the Ravens in Baltimore in the rivalry. The last time the Lions won up in Baltimore was back in 1977 when Indianapolis Colts still played in Baltimore. Plus, every time the Lions have played the Ravens in Baltimore, the Lions have lost every game there by at least 9 points. And usually they haven't been close games. Plus, Lamar historically has always dominated against NFC competition. So, and I don't think it'll be any different. Like, I think the Lions are gonna lose. It's probably gonna be by double digits. Because it's early in the year and the Ravens will slowly be starting to figure it all out early in the year. But yeah, I got that as a loss, so I got Detroit falling to 2-1. Week 4 at home against Cleveland. Yeah, I got the win as a win against the Browns. Browns are a complete shit show right now, especially with the QB situation. Like, let's be honest, Jimmy Haslam has no fucking clue what he's doing in Cleveland. Like it was obvious that the Sean Cosby thing was an absolute mistake. And Sean Cosby is not going to be playing in this game. He's out for the whole year because he tore his Achilles a second time. Oh, no. Anyway. But yeah, I got Cleveland as a win. Cleveland is just an absolute mess right now. Plus a chance to get back at Cleveland for what happened when the MLB playoffs between the Tigers and Cleveland Guardians last year. See, I got that as a win. They'll go 3-1. Detroit at 3-1 now. Week 5 in Cincinnati against the Bengals. 4:25 game on Fox is America's Game of the Week. I got that game in Cincinnati as a loss. The Lions have usually struggled against the Bengals. Cincinnati has had Detroit's number for quite a while. Plus, I don't think Detroit matches up too well against Cincinnati. Honestly, in that game, that game against Cincinnati, I could see it being a high-scoring shootout, where both teams score at least 30 points. I think it's going to be one of those games where there's going to be a lot of offense. I think it comes down to whose offense gets the ball on the field with the final 2 minutes. And I think that's going to come down to who has the ball in the last 2 minutes. And I think Cincinnati takes it on a last-second field goal. So I got that as a loss to Cincinnati. I got Detroit falling to 3-2. Week 6 in Kansas City and Arrowhead against the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. Believe it or not, I got that game as a win. I think we could beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead on Sunday Night Football. I mean, we beat the Chiefs a couple years ago on Thursday Night Football to when the Chiefs opened the season. We opened the year on the road in Kansas City on the Chiefs Super Bowl night a couple years ago. I have the Lions winning that game on the road in Kansas City. I'll be honest, in terms of this 2-game road trip with Cincinnati and Kansas City, I was always gonna have it be a 1-1 split. If I had Detroit beating Cincinnati, I would have had Kansas losing to Kansas City. I think whichever those 2 games we lose, we win the other. I'll be honest, out of the 2, I think Detroit matches up better against Kansas City than they do against Cincinnati. I have that game against the Chiefs as a win. I think the Chiefs are slowly starting to fall off, and I think the Chiefs' window might be slowly closing. Plus, Mahomes hasn't looked like the same QB he's been the last couple years, especially ever since Matt Nagy took over play calling duties. So there you go there. But yeah, in Kansas City on Sunday Night Football, I got that game as a win. So I got Detroit at 4-2 now. Week 7 at home against Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football, facing the Buccaneers for the 5th time in the last 2 years. Jesus Christ. 5 times in nearly 2 calendar years. Good God. But week 7 at home to Tampa Bay, I don't think the Lions will lose to Tampa Bay again. I mean, last year it was going to happen because of how many times we faced Tampa Bay in the past. The Tampa Bay was bound to have get our number eventually. I think this time Detroit gets back at Tampa for that. It's on Monday Night Football, so a primetime game with the whole nation watching. I got that game against Tampa Bay as a win. So I got Detroit going this 5-2, entering the bye week, which is week 8. So the Lions have a later bye week than in the past. So it's about a mid-season bye week. So I'd say that's reasonable, mid-season. Maybe a couple weeks later it could have been, but, hey, I'll take a week 8 bye week over an early bye week. Then after the bye week, week 9, we open at home against Minnesota. Against the Vikings, the team that has had Detroit has had Minnesota's number since we traded them T.J. Hawkinson. Because ever since we traded Hawkinson to the Vikings, the Lions have been 5-0 against the Vikings since then. And I think that streak continues to go to 6-0. I have Detroit beating the Vikings, so I got that as a win, and I have Detroit going to 6-2. Then week 10 in Washington for a 4:25 game against the Commanders. In Washington at that dump FedEx Field. And, of course, the first time the Lions and Commanders have met since the playoffs last year, and the Lions got shockingly upsetted by the Commanders. That's the 1 seed in the playoffs at home. This time in Washington turf, and this time we'll have a healthy Hutchinson and a pretty healthy roster for the most part. I think Detroit gets back at Washington for last year, and I think they go in the FedEx Field and win that game in Washington. So I got that game against Washington as a win. I think they get payback for last year. So I got Detroit going to 7-2 and get some sort of redemption. Week 11 in Philadelphia on Sunday Night Football. Well, that's going to be a tough-ass game. I got that game against Philadelphia as a loss. That's going to be a very hostile environment to go up into Philadelphia, especially when it's a primetime game. That means the Eagle fans are going to be twice as rowdy as they normally are. So that's going to be a very hostile environment to play in front of on prime time. I think that's going to be a struggle. I have the Lions losing that game to Philadelphia in Philly, so I got that as a loss on Sunday Night Football. So I got Detroit falling to 7-3. Week 12 at home against the New York Giants. Yeah, I got that as a win against the Giants. Just the Giants. It's really hard to say what the Giants are. Can't really get a gauge on them. Potentially could be Brian Daboll's last year. Depending on what happens, unless they're going to give him some more time with Jackson Dart now in the frame. But I got that as a win. The Lions have done pretty well against the Giants recently, so I'm going to say that continues. Then week 13, Thanksgiving, at home against the Green Bay Packers. I think for the second year in a row, and for the third time in 4 years, I think Detroit will sweep the season series against Green Bay. I have the Lions beating the Packers at home, and I think the Lions sweep that season series, and they get the win on Thanksgiving. So I got Detroit now up to 9-3. So there we go. Week 14, Detroit at home against the Dallas Cowboys on Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Yeah, I got that game against Dallas as a win. Just the Cowboys are becoming a mess right now with Jerry Jones, and now they got Brian Schottenheimer as the head coach. Yeah, just Dallas is becoming a complete mess right now. So yeah, I got that game against Dallas as a win. So I got Detroit going to 10-3 now. Week 15 in Los Angeles to take on the Rams at 425. I got that win in SoFi. I got that game against the Rams in SoFi as a win. Late in the season, some playoff implications. I think the Lions go up to SoFi and win that game. And I'm not worried about Jared Goff getting booed in SoFi this time. Because he isn't going to get booed, because Lions fans are going to take over SoFi. And for Rams fans that don't think the Lions fans will take over SoFi, well, little does Rams Nation know that a shitload of Lions fans live out on the West Coast. There are a lot of Lions fans on the West Coast, and they will take that stadium over no problem. Now, whether Lions fans can take it over as good as the 49ers fan base does, that's to be determined. Probably not, because the 49ers do a damn good job of taking over SoFi when they come to town against the Rams. But, stranger shit has happened in the past. But anyway, that game against the Rams, I got that as a win, so I got Detroit at 11-3. Week 16 at home against Pittsburgh, a 425 game. I got that as a win against the Steelers. Of course, last time Lions and Steelers met, that game ended in a tie. A pretty embarrassing tie. This time there must be a winner. And I think the Lions get the job done against the Steelers. Just, I think the Steelers are going to struggle pretty bad this year. Like, the defense, I think, will do well, but the offense is going to struggle a lot. So I got that game against Pittsburgh as a win, so I got Detroit going to 12-3. And then week 17 in Minnesota on Christmas. So yeah, the Lions will be playing the Vikings in Minnesota on Christmas in a 425 game on Netflix. So Detroit will be part of that now Christmas triple header, because the two Amazon games and then the two Netflix games and the Amazon Prime game, when the NFL goes head to head against the NBA on Christmas. Which, let's be honest, LeBron James can bitch and cry all he wants about about Christmas being the NBA's holiday. It isn't the NBA's holiday anymore. It's now the NFL's holiday after the NFL dominated the NBA in the ratings last year. And with the Lions playing and the Lions being must-see TV the last couple of years, I say is, we can already declare that the NFL is going to win this Christmas again over the NBA. Like 5 months in advance. Like, that's pretty fucking sad for the NBA and how dead the NBA is becoming. When we can already predict that the NFL is going to kick the NBA's ass in the ratings 7 months in advance. That's pretty fucking sad and pathetic, to be honest. In terms of this game, though, I think this will be when the Lions' winning streak against the Vikings snap. Because I think the Vikings are bound to win a game against Detroit at some point. And I think it'll be this one. And I think the Lions will finally lose a game to the Vikings since the Hawkinson trade. And I think they lose this one to Minnesota in Minnesota. So I got Detroit losing on Christmas to the Vikings. And I have Detroit go falling to 12-4 there. See, after potentially 6 in a row, they're bound. Minnesota will be bound to win one against Detroit at some point. So I got that as a loss to the Vikings. And in Week 18, we end the year in Chicago because I forgot to mention the game against Pittsburgh is the Lions' last home game of the regular season. But Week 18 in Chicago to end the year, we don't know the date or time for that one because all Week 18 games are to be determined because we don't know how everything's going to shape out by the time we get to Week 18 in terms of playoff implications and seeding and all that stuff. So, yeah, could be a Sunday game, could be a Saturday game. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But for Week 18, I think the Lions sweep the Bears for the second year in a row. Because even though it is a cold weather game, it will be a cold weather game no matter what. And usually the Lions have historically struggled in cold weather games. But the last time the Lions played a cold weather game in Week 18, it was in Lambeau against the Green Bay Packers. And they went up and beat the Packers in Lambeau for that one to keep Green Bay from making the playoffs. And there's a possibility where the Lions could be playing to keep Chicago out. And I think if that happens, I think Detroit will do enough to do that. Plus, Detroit could be playing for the number 1 seed entering that game. So I imagine Dan will most likely have all the starters playing. He won't rest anybody. So I got that game against Chicago as a win. And I have Detroit ending the year at 13-4. So now 13-4, I don't know if that will be enough to get the 1 seed again like last year. Like, it's going to be tough. I think 10, 11, 12 wins. I think anywhere in that range, I think that will actually be good enough to win the NFC North this year because the Bears, Vikings, and Packers all have tough schedules this year as well. And the Lions home slate matches up pretty well. Like, the Lions have a pretty good home schedule. Like, hell, all the games I picked for the Lions to lose this year have all been road games. I have the Lions going 8-0 at home this year. So I have the Lions going undefeated at home. Like, I think all the games the Lions lose will be on the road. Because this road schedule is a lot harder than last year. Because we all know the Lions were road warriors last year going undefeated on the road. I do not think that will happen again. I think the Lions are going to lose quite a few road games this year. But yeah, with how tough every team in the division schedule is, I think 13 wins should be enough to win the North for a third year in a row. Unless Minnesota or Green Bay or somebody pulls some bullshit. Just look at the first 6 road games of the year for the Lions, which are Green Bay, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Washington, Philadelphia. All 6 of those teams are projected to win at least 9 games this year. So it's going to be a very tough schedule. But the one thing we'll know for sure is that this Lions team will be battle-tested by Week 11, which I think that will bode very well for them when we get to the playoffs and it becomes playoff time. Because the Lions will have all their tough competition out of the way early in the year. Like, the Lions' second half, last month or so of the season is a lot more favorable. But, you never know how these seasons pan out. But anyway, that'll wrap it up here. That's all I got to say, and I'll see you whatever I make next. I'm out, and as always, go Lions.